Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV with your host, Kyle Ellicott. Today, we're going to be talking about where to look for the next Silicon Valley. Is there a location? Where could this location or locations be? Or is it something more than just one particular place? We're joined today by some outstanding members of the VCTV family to break this down for you, and also to talk a little bit more about what's happening in the world of venture in general. Before we get to introducing our guest today, big thank you to the Token team and to Hasmic for making today's episode possible. With that, I do want to introduce our guest today. Devang, are you there?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Devang. Very nice to meet you. It's a pleasure. Devang, why don't you provide everyone a quick introduction, just a few minutes on yourself and your background.
Sure, I am Devang Mehta. I'm based here in Mumbai, India. I'm a venture capitalist. We actually run a speed scaling ecosystem by which we invest and scale in early stage companies at pre-Series A and Series A. I handle the the healthcare vertical by which we invest in and scale companies at pre-Series A all the way up to Series B, Series C. To exits. Primary area of interest is oncology and adjacencies. And that's because we work closely with India's biggest oncology chain, HCG. Uh, I've lived in the Silicon Valley for more than a decade. I'm familiar with the geography, the nuances, the whole ecosystem, and I think this should be a great discussion.
Absolutely. Helga, welcome as well. A little intro and background for everybody, just a few minutes on yourself.
Yes, hi, I'm Helga from Crowberry Capital, and crowberries are a superfood that grow in cold climates. So naturally, I'm located in the Nordics. I'm sitting here in Copenhagen, but we work across the Nordics, and we do sort of pre-seed, seed, and Series A. And we'll do generalist tech, and and the Nordics have been very, very strong in recent years, and we're betting on them continuing to grow a lot of fantastic tech companies.
Wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about companies, about pre-seed to series, about tech companies, about general. Let's talk about it all. But more importantly, Silicon Valley and the mindset that it has created for so many people and places around the world. All right, we talk a lot and have over the last decade, to Devang's point, since he's lived there for a little bit, that we always are searching out for the next Silicon Valley. Every city or every country is trying to build the next. But I think we can all agree, and many others as well, that Silicon Valley is more than a place. It is a true mindset. But when you both think about the next Silicon Valley or the next grouping of the masses when it comes to tech, would love to hear what you're both seeing locally first, and then I want to come back and hear what you think next. So Devang, talk to us about India's Silicon Valley. What does that look like? How is it shaped and formed very differently than the Silicon Valley of the Bay Area that many may know?
Yeah, so I think people are usually associated Bangalore as India's Silicon Valley, and rightfully so. There's I'd say at least 60% or more of tech startups, at least 50%, are based in Bangalore. It has all the the elements of Silicon Valley, except premier engineering colleges. India has premier engineering colleges, obviously, but they're not necessarily located in Bangalore. But it has an entrepreneurial culture. There's a lot of startups. India's IT industry, began in Bangalore, and then that spawned off to the startup ecosystem. A lot of the venture capitalists are based there. A lot of the success stories are based there. The climate is good. It's a very livable city. There's traffic problems and stuff like that, but it's a very livable city, and there's a lot of success stories that have emanated from Bangalore, which I think, when these elements come together, it makes for a great tech ecosystem like Silicon Valley.
Absolutely. And there are other cities throughout India as well, outside of Bangalore, that are becoming kind of hotspots for tech and entrepreneurship. Have you seen any on the rise more recently throughout India?
Yes, so there's a Mumbai, which is traditionally the financial capital of the country, and the movie and the entertainment industry. So some of that has seeped over to like fintech, because the finance is here and some tech comes in, so fintech.
Mhm.
Uh, there's Delhi. Indian startup ecosystem is based around the traditional metros. Delhi is called Delhi NCR because there's surrounding cities that are part of the ecosystem.
Mhm.
And then there's a city called Chennai, which was most recently in the news because of a unicorn SaaS startup,
Mhm.
India's first, I believe, fresh desk that actually went public on the Nasdaq in a much publicized, much very big event.
Mhm.
Basically for India. uh, for a tech startup to have an exit of this kind was big anyways, and going public on the Nasdaq in full view of the world was in an even bigger event, and that will spawn the SaaS mentality. It's possible to build a software in India, sell
Beautiful.
to the world with an annual subscription, and access through the cloud. So I think Chennai is now all of a sudden host to a lot of tech startups that have enterprise offerings on the cloud.
I love it. And Helga, coming to you, same question. Talk to us a little bit about the Silicon Valley of the Nordics. We've seen some outstanding companies and some big unicorns come out of that region as well. But kind of paint us a picture of what's happening there. What is that Silicon Valley or Silicon Valleys throughout the Nordics?
Yeah. I think really interestingly is, as you said earlier, Silicon Valley has become a mindset rather than a location, and I think that's really, really important. And one of the joys of working in the Nordics is there's a lot of collaboration. So the Nordic countries, they're all small countries, but each one is bigger than Palo Alto, so you don't have to be big to be sort of meaningful. And the countries all work together. So I'm talking Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, and then maybe what people call the new Nordics, which are countries like Estonia and Latvia. And so I think there's a lot of collaboration and people from different countries work together and things like that. I mean, I think the holy grail sometimes for the Nordics is, the US. So you kind of see like, the Nordic success stories like Spotify and Klarna. I settle, they kind of make it big when they kind of conquer the US market. But I think we've also been in startups that, bypass the US and go to sort of South America and things like that. So I think it's where your customers really are. So I think within the Nordics, you have good universities, you have a diverse talent pool, and you have a lot of collaboration and very loyal employees. And I think makes the Nordics are really, really, and you have repeat entrepreneurs who have been successful in past ventures. So yeah, I think, it's a very vibrant ecosystem, but I think it's not about location. It's much more about mindset, as you said earlier. And I think the sort of early unicorns from the Nordics showed that you can build a global superstar from the Nordics. And I think what's been really interesting as well, I think the pandemic has shown us it does not matter where you are, as long as there are good ideas. You can build, good things from anywhere, and you can have distributed teams, and people can collaborate across the world. And I think that is one of the joys of where technology is at the moment. It's not about location; it's all about your customer base, and we're beyond geography, I think. And it's about how you think and how you sort of attract your customers.
So you spelled out exactly where I was going next, Helga, and then that's where is the future of Silicon Valley going to be? Because as things continue to shape out, and it's true, you can be anywhere, and many ecosystems around the world that offer support, that have individuals that first time, second time, third time, multiple time entrepreneurs and venture capital, everything is out there, but also it's all digital at the same time. Three of us as investors have probably made tons of investments globally without actually having to get on a plane over the last 2 years to meet people in person. So with that being said, for both of you, where is the next Silicon Valley? Is it in one of the specific regions that will become a tech hub or a new tech hub that's rising? Or is it the metaverse? And Helga, I'd love to start with you on that.
I'm a firm believer in the metaverse. In fact, because I'm originally from Iceland, we did I don't know if anybody's seen the mock-up film about the Iceland verse, but I know, I think, you can work from anywhere, and I think, that, and I think this is the great thing, is because, I think, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you'd go to Silicon Valley and people, the funds in the Valley wouldn't invest in anybody that wasn't located in Silicon Valley. Now you see all these funds coming to Europe, coming to the Nordics and India and Africa, and they're all over the world because, there is no geography about good ideas. And if people have the ambition and the skills to build something, a location shouldn't matter. And that's very much the stance that we take at Crowberry Capital. Obviously, we are a Nordic fund, and we kind of know most of our deal flow comes via the Nordics. So it's also difficult to be chasing the world as a whole. But, we will talk to most people. We try to be very inclusive, because I think it's also about, it shouldn't just be, 15 years ago, it felt very much like it was sort of men in venture funds in Silicon Valley investing in younger men that had just graduated from Stanford, and they got the opportunity. And there's a whole world of people that are developing solutions for the world that, did not happen to go to Stanford and don't happen to be male. So I think it's more about, listening to just right people irrespective of location. And I think that makes me very hopeful about the future development technology, because I think, by addressing problems in Bangalore or Reykjavik or London or Romania or wherever, I think we're going to have a much broader technology landscape going forward. I also think, if you look at, just like everything that's happening with Web 3.0, it's all about, you don't have to be centralized. So I think that's kind of makes it very exciting. It's exciting times, I think.
Yeah. Well, and whether it be the Iceland verse or the metaverse or the metaverses. By the way, those who have not checked out the Iceland video about the metaverse, I absolutely highly recommend it for so many reasons. It's absolutely wonderful. But you're right. I mean, there are people everywhere, Helga, that you can go to a city, you can meet, but you can also digitally connect with so many people. And as we do transition to Web 3.0 and beyond, and living our lives more digitally, that's probably just going to accelerate. I mean, we're here all in different locations around the world, connecting, learning, discussing a particular topic. And in the same respect, can push something forward, right? We could do a deal together. We could introduce someone together. There's so many things we can do, and we're all in different places. So again, it's about that mindset. Devang, to you, same question. What are your thoughts on the future of Silicon Valleys around the world and where that might be physically or digitally?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it used to be the case about a decade ago that you needed to be in Silicon Valley to have a realistic chance of growing a good tech team and getting funded and all that. I think that will not be true anymore. There will be many such hotspots across the world where a lot of good ideas will come from, and a lot of startups will emerge. I think the each such region though will need to have all or most of the enabling elements, which is good tech universities in local proximities makes it easier to hire engineers and even interns and things like that. It needs to have local VCs. I think VCs still are a little bit of the handshake mentality. They do like to meet startups every once in a while, and they do like geographical proximity to some extent, not as much as before. And I think you just need local case studies. It just seeps into the local culture when your neighbor or an alum or someone that has started a company, managed to raise rounds of funding, on route to become a unicorn or even a success story in general. I think once there's enough of that, I think the people in that geography or location become more acclimated and more receptive to the idea of not having, a stable corporate job, shall we say, as the career of choice. It was true in India for decades, for numerous decades, is to get a good education and get a good job and stay with the same company for 30, 40 years and retire with a gold watch, something like that. It because there was security in that. There was no worries in terms of raising a loan or raising funding and all. But entrepreneurs usually that wanted to start a company depended upon bank loans for the longest time, and there was a section of the population that understood that, but no one understood venture capital, as in giving money to someone else for equity and sharing the risk and the reward without interest or regular payments. So once any region in the world moves away from the older mentality to a newer mentality where people are willing to share the risk and the reward, which is basically VCs and entrepreneurs, that's a very important element of the ecosystem. And then, by the way, it's not just VCs. It seems the way all the way back to alumni, sorry, angels, who are often alumni of premier universities like IIT, Stanford, Berkeley. So a long-winded answer, short answer is it'll emerge in London. It can be in Singapore, Bangalore, Hong Kong. It can be in smaller towns in India if things just come together at the right time. There's plenty of geographies I'm sure that I'm missing out on. The Nordics, for example, San Diego, Boston, already hotspots. So all those places I think are primed to be the next Silicon Valley. There's at least a dozen today, I think.
Absolutely, and if not more as well, that we're not aware of yet because they're moving so rapidly. But in today's closing thoughts, one question for you both is in your respected regions, right? So Silicon Valley is everywhere. It's a mindset. So what advice would you have for those coming to your local region to build the next Silicon Valley, to set in roots to build their next company as well? So Devang, kick us off with India, and then Helga, I'll come to you on the Nordics, and we'll wrap up. But Devang, tell us about India. What advice do you have for those entrepreneurs looking to come and start building there in the region?
I think the traditional wisdom still applies. A network is net worth. You need to be well networked, all the way from alumni networks, people that you work with, people that you meet, neighbors. Just to build that a good network of people that can work with you, can fund you, can help you expand, things like that. Of course, India has its unique set of problems and challenges, but consumer markets are big. If you can growth hack your way, in a consumer scenario, there's multi-billion-dollar markets right at your doorstep. You don't need to look at geographies outside of India. At the same time, certain markets are less developed. The enterprise SaaS and software market is not as respected in India as much, because software, it's hard to get people to pay for software in India. So if you're thinking of building an enterprise software company, you have to build in India where the cost base is still low, but sell to the world. So you have to find the right set of connects and salespeople in Europe, in the USA, to build a SaaS company. So you have to be aware of the nuances as to what works in India and what does not. And if you're not local to India, then you should realize that it'll take a bit of time to understand these nuances. But otherwise, the first principles are the same. Good tech, differentiated, well networked to investors, and ability to growth hack to Series A and B and beyond.
Absolutely, Helga, to you. Nordics are a very unique region. Great resources, as you've mentioned, around entrepreneurship and general technology, but maybe unknown for many on how to get started and what they should do. So advice you would have for those looking to come to the Nordics to get started and build their company?
Yeah, I think, as you said, very, very good infrastructure. And one of the things also that Nordics have, which I think makes people take more risk, is the fact that I have this theory that because we have a good safety net, it doesn't make people lazy. It makes them willing to take more risk. We have good healthcare, and we have good childcare, and we have good good schools, and it's all free. So you don't have to worry about risking your salary, because you will be able to afford healthcare, schools, and childcare. So what you do is, so it makes it easier to start a company in the Nordics, because you have this welfare system behind you. You may pay slightly higher taxes, but it all goes to good causes. But so that, I think that means that people can take more risk. And it means, but also with the Nordics, unlike India, we don't have the luxury of having a huge home market. The Nordics is a 27 million person market, all the Nordics together. So we're always building global companies. And if you're going to build a global company, you have to have a global team from day one. Because I think the most successful Nordic companies I see have been thinking global from day one. They've been thinking about, their customers around the world, and they will have a team that they just hire the best from wherever, and either they come and sit in the Nordics or they work remotely. So I think it's about having a global team as well if you're building a global business. And I think that's actually quite enjoyable.
Absolutely. And Helga, where can everyone find you online to connect, to continue the conversation if and when they head over to the Nordics?
Yes, just go to our website, and I have my email, phone number, and LinkedIn profile there. So the website is crowberrycapital.com.
Wonderful. Thank you, Devang. Same question to you. Where can everyone find you to continue the conversation?
Sure. I'm very active on LinkedIn. There's a few Devang Mehtas, but there's only one Adantil. So just type in that extra word and you'll find me on the first search result. And my email is not hard either. It's my first name, Devang, at antilventures.com. Glad to connect, glad to share thoughts and opinions. Look forward to meeting any and all of you.
Wonderful. Devang, Helga, thank you very much both for sharing your thoughts and insights today around the topic of the next Silicon Valley. To our audience, if you haven't done so already, first off, thank you for tuning in, but also make sure that you've reached out and connect with Devang and Helga, myself. We'd all love to hear from you. Please do reach out. And when you do, remember to add context, where you heard us, where you met us, and what you would like to continue the conversation about. Big thank you to the Token team and to Hasmik for making today's episode, along with our guests as well. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.